Like that.
Just check on there.
That's the first.
Okay, I'd just like to welcome you all to the big Love Unions workplace meeting. In the way of introduction, my name's Amanda Gearing. I'm a senior organiser with GMB. I look after organising regionally and nationally. I'm just going to talk a little bit about why we're here today, and then I'm going to pass you over to Stephanie Peacock, our political officer, who's going to talk a little bit more about the trade union bill. So it's Love Unions Week. You've all been here today in your workplace meetings for your different workplaces in the retail sector and the care sector, and we're all coming together now to talk about why we love our union. And I know that sounds like a kind of a soft option, why do we love our union? But it is really an important issue, because what we're trying to do is counteract the attacks from the Tory party coming in the form of the trade union bill. So what we want to say is, no, that's not right, that's not what should happen to us, because we add this to the world. So, you know, we make people's workplaces safer, we improve terms and conditions, we protect people at work, we look after people that can't speak for themselves. You know, there's lots of things that we do as a movement, and we need to be able to say that today. So, and the only way that we can do that is from yourselves, that are trade union members and reps, being able to stand up and be counted today, so that we can show the Tory party that our movement needs to be saved. Okay, so if I just run through what's going to happen today, I'm going to pass over to Stephanie shortly. She's going to talk about the trade union bill. I'm then going to throw it out to the floor where people can raise their hand and they can say what it is that they like about their union, or what their union has done for them, or what they have been able to do for others as a trade union rep. When we've done that, we're going to bring in some food. We've got some cupcakes, a little bit of a social, and then settle down to watch our live feed to Francis O'Grady with Eddie Izzard doing a question and answer session. We're going to have the hashtag that you're going to be able to tweet to. So if you want to ask a question of Francis O'Grady, we're going to be showing that throughout that performance, and you'll be able to, you know, tweet in your question. Okay, so I'm just going to hand over to Stephanie now.
Before I begin, can I just get an indication? Just raise your hand if you've heard of the trade union bill. Okay, brilliant. So it's really good to see that most people in the room have heard of it. I'm going to speak very briefly because my understanding is that Francis and Eddie will speak a little bit about it. But there was a few lines in the Tory manifesto about a year ago that talked about trade unions. And what that would have indicated is that last July, a whole bill called the Trade Union Reform Bill, to give its full title, was published. It's by no accident a very complex piece of legislation, and we could spend hours talking about all the different details of it, but there are really three key areas to it that will affect us as a union and as a movement. Firstly, it will significantly reduce our ability and our right to strike. It will effectively end national action because of the thresholds that it will place on balloting. And so in effect you'll need 80% yes in order to get people out on strike in a national action, because of the fact they're counting nobody voting as a no vote. And that's not a threshold that any member of parliament is subject to. The government itself actually only got 24% of the population voting for it. And when you talk to people on the street who maybe aren't union members, even if strikes disrupt them and they don't agree with them, they do believe that people should have the right to withdraw their labour as a final resort. So that is a key part of it. And the second bit, if anyone pays their union fees through check-off or knows of people who are doing public services, so that's if, for example, it just comes straight out of your wages rather than a direct debit, they're going to remove that. That's solely aimed at reducing the numbers of union members and the ability for us to sort of recruit and keep our numbers up. And thirdly, it's going to significantly affect the political fund. We do have a relationship with the Labour Party. We do support the Labour Party as the political voice of the trade unions, but our political fund is much more than that. You'll know a number of care workers in the room here. You'll know the care campaign we've done. We do work on pay, on teaching assistants. There's a number of different industrial campaigns that we run that have a political element to them, and we would not be able to do that. So I could go on. I think different issues will come out in the Q&A and in the overview of it. But make no doubt, this bill is not about political transparency, it's not about fairness, it's about an attack on not just the trade union movement, but the Labour Party, but opposition and democracy in itself. It's currently going through the House of Lords, where it has run into difficulties, and Lords are questioning the validity of it. And so this week is about celebrating the positive work of trade unions, but it is also about standing up and saying we don't accept what the government are doing, we don't think it's fair, and we'd like them to think again about this bill.
Just to touch on the bill a little bit more, if you think about the political fund, sometimes that's the thing that can be controversial with people. People think, well, you know, we may not want to support a particular political party, but the fund's not, you know, solely about supporting a political party. Not that I think that we should shy away from that, because at the end of the day, what we need to be able to do is to elect like-minded people into seats where they can speak on behalf of our members. So we have to be able to do that, and the political fund allows us to do that. We need a political vehicle. But also, if you just think about some of the campaigns that we're running, and if I can touch just for a little bit longer on the care sector, because we have the care sector reps in the room today, we're currently running a campaign to improve conditions in the care sector for workers. We're looking for the living wage as a minimum. We're looking for proper training, and not just the touch training that's available at the moment, that can take care of the emotional needs of the people that carers care for. We're looking for recognition that these workers are not unskilled as they're currently paid, but that they're actually, you know, adding value and looking after your mums and dads in the care sector, your aunties, uncles, nans, anybody that you would perceive to go into a care home will be looked after by these workers. They will dress wounds, they will you know, tend to their personal needs, they will hold their hand at the end of their life. You know, there is lots and lots of things that care workers do that is not highlighted, so therefore they should be recognised and they should be paid the correct amount for the job that they do. So we're campaigning for that currently, and we've got the care charter. Now, the only way that we can do that is we can campaign like we are today, and I can talk to you, but I'm actually talking to the converted. What we need to do, how we make a difference, is to be able to lobby politicians and to say, look, this is what's happening in this sector, it's not acceptable. And enabling us to do that is the political fund. So, you know, it is important that we have that fund and that we're able to work on those kinds of campaigns that highlight, you know, important issues in the care sector and, you know, in retail and in other sectors where there might be issues. So, you know, we can't labour that point enough. And the other thing to add on the trade union bill is that it's all done sort of in the arc, if you know what I mean. So when we do the ballot, we have to do it by post. And with regards to the political fund, currently you can opt out of the political fund if you want to. Doesn't mean you pay any less in your subs, it just means that the couple of pence that goes to the political fund doesn't. Under the new bill, we will have to write you and get you to opt in. So you can imagine the difficulty we're going to have with that. 650,000 members nationwide we have, and we have to get all of you to opt in. And if that's not enough, we've got to do it in 3 months. And if that's not enough, we cannot do that electronically. That has to be in writing to you, and then you writing back to us. So you can see the kind of things that are being thrown in front of us. And this isn't to improve, you know, your lives as workers. This is to make sure that we know our place as far as the Tories are concerned. And we really need to kick back. And these kind of events are all about that. So on that note, I'm going to throw it out to the floor now, and if you can just indicate if you'd like to speak, and if you'd like to say, you know, something about your union and about yourself. If you just give us a minute to kind of bring the camera around, and then I'll just... You can stand up or sit, it's entirely up to you.
I believe in the unions. My name is Julie and I work in retail. They protect the workers' rights, they've looked after health and safety, and they fight for a proper rate of pay for all workers. They stand against any form of bullying, victimisation, discrimination at all levels. Unions are run by the people, for the people, and I believe we should stand up and all be counted.
Hi, I'm Tammy. I work in the care sector. I work for a private provider in care. I love the union because of the support that I get, that I can actually pass on to the other girls and boys that work with us. We do a skilled job and we're not paid enough, but we still do it, and it's caused by the heart that we have. And I've worked in care for nearly 20 years, and the support that I've had from my union, because of the charity work I do as well, as you can see, my hair's not very long. I had all my hair shaved off for charity, for the poorly little boy, and the union supported me, so I'm going to 100% support the union and support all the staff that I work with, because it is a very rewarding job. As you say, it's roles reversed. They looked after us growing up. Now it's our turn to look after them. And I take my job to heart, 100%.
My name is Patricia. I work for a private care provider. I have been a union member for over 10 years, and I've actually gained so much confidence in protecting not only the staff I work with. I've protected residents. We fought discrimination. We fought racism. We fought prejudice against us from the management. So I love my union so much that I could carry on and on and on, but I'll stop for others now.
I'm Scott. I work for a local retail outlet. I've been a member for as long as I've been a rep, and the reason I joined was because my colleagues needed somebody who would stand up and have a voice in the workplace. And I think the major thing of having a voice in the workplace is that colleagues and members and non-members alike can come to realise that management can't just stand there, push you about and tell you rules and regulations that really don't exist. They like to tell you what they want to tell you, but if you've got access to their own policies and members understand that, then they realise that they can't be pushed around from pillar to post. Thank you.
I've joined the union because of the bullying nature of the actual firm I work for. They're quite manipulative of what Scott says, how they try to use the policies against you or try to make up policies along the way. And since I've been a rep, I've actually stopped a few people from actually losing their jobs.
Hello, you all know me, I'm Angie Jones. I work at a retail store, large retail store. I'm a health and safety rep, and the reason I love the union is I've worked for this company for many years and watched the injustice and people being treated unfairly and the company not adhering to the policies. So I just thought I need to do something and just became a rep.
My name is Yvonne. I work for a private care provider. I became a rep because I want to be the voice of my colleagues. The union has provided training and support. I can call for support and know that someone will be there to listen to my concerns. Being a part of the union is one of the best things that I have ever done. My only regret is not joining the union 10 years ago.
Anybody else with info? Rachel?
I just want to use this opportunity really just to say thank you to everybody. I came in as a rep in a private care home, the branch secretary for the C40 care branch. I'm getting emotional because I'm hearing all my reps, and you know we've been through a lot, and we've campaigned on a lot of serious issues, and you know it's affected us all in lots of different ways. But I just want to say thank you for all the support that I've had from the union and helping me to grow and strengthening me. And I love you guys so much. Thank you.
My name's Mark. I work for the ambulance service. I've been in the health service for 40 years. I've been a union rep on and off for the last 40 years. Why? Because Originally, unions were formed because the employer hired them and fired them at will, and they didn't care. Didn't care about your life, didn't care about your wife, your family, where the money was coming from, how you would feed them. The way it's going at the moment, thanks to this government, is back to that. If we don't have a union that's willing to stand there and unite us, and we're not talking about that union, we're talking about GMB, if we don't have a union, then where are we going to go? Back to the same place. Back to the place where who cares whether your kids are on the streets? So there's a sense of justice here. There's a sense of doing what's right. And for me, if no one else is going to speak, then we have to do it. I have to do it in the workplace, and so do you. And by being together with one voice, we will overcome.
Does anybody else like to speak? June?
I'm June, and I work in a care home for private sector, and I became a rep because I wanted to speak up for myself and other people, and the GMB have given me a voice, and I'm so thankful for that. And we need to stick up for our rights, basically, in care and anything else.
Hazel?
I'm Hazel Bradley. I work for a private retail company. Worked for them for the last 10 years and been a rep for the last 8 years. The reason why I became a rep was we unfortunately had a very nefarious senior management team who just run roughshod over our staff, and it ultimately came to a point where it was someone's got to stand up and say something and show them that you absolutely can't treat people like they're useless. There are laws in place, there are rules and regulations in place, and the management teams must be held accountable and must be aware that people will hold them accountable, and that's ultimately what the unions will do. And that's why I became a rep, and thankfully that nefarious senior management team is no longer in place, because ultimately when they realised that the workforce did have power, they suddenly didn't have a leg to stand on, and that was thanks to the union for helping me.
You knew you wouldn't get away with it.
Yeah, my name's Anne, and I work for a large retail company. Worked for them for a few years, quite a few years. And I joined the GMB because of the way my colleagues were being treated at work. They were being walked all over by management, treated appallingly. There was no morale in store at all. As well as the way they were being treated, it was also the equipment and PPE that they had not got. They had got nothing to work with. I'd got colleagues working outside in appalling weather, and they were getting soaked to the skin. I approached management and was told that only forklift drivers were allowed PPE. Well, I wasn't happy with that, so I bangs in a letter to the manager who was dealing with the PP at the time, and he did not respond to the letter, so I bangs in another one. And then, without a reply to that, all of a sudden, my colleagues started getting PPE. They were getting waterproof clothing, boots. I think that's one for us.
Gabriel?
Yes, my name's Gabriel. I work for the Dream Company, as everyone knows. The reason why I became a rep was I saw so many injustices going on at work, and I decided to become a rep so that fellow colleagues could have a voice to go through. And my feeling is if you're here on this world to help people, then you should be helping people. If you're not, then why are you here? Because at the moment we're in a situation where we've got vultures circling this country, ready to move in to pick up. So I think we have to stand and keep the vultures away.
Would anybody else like to speak? Pauline?
I joined the union
agreed with the union for many years. I work in retail, been in it for 20 years, before that factories and bakeries. Before they used to say I'm a rebel or a troublemaker, but it wasn't that, it was the fact I wanted to stand up for what was right for with the unions. Since I've joined the union, I've had a lot more confidence. I go out, recruit a lot. I'm also involved with the women's group. We go out doing refugee collections to help the refugees as well. Go to the chain making, that's very interesting. It's opened my eyes to a lot of things and given me the confidence to go to other courses what I thought I weren't good enough to go on. So thank you very much to the unions, and all stick together.
Anybody else? Yeah?
My name's Gavin, work for a well-known retail company. I love the union. The union is the voice of the workforce and essential in being the voice of the worker, as well as supporting the rights and maintaining and fighting for industry, might add what is left of it.
Anyone else? Yeah.
My name is Jeanette. I work in the retail. I love my union because it supports me in my role as a GMB rep to represent the members, standing up for their legal rights in the workplace, preventing the erosion of terms and conditions, and upholding health and safety. Personally, I hate bullies, and this is what I witness in the workplace. And as a rep, the union empowers me to say no.
Anyone else? Rebecca?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Mitchell. I used to be a workplace rep in the care sector. My union, the GMB, supported me with training, getting more involved in the union movements, and I'm now an official for the union. I organise various workplaces. I get to support the West Midlands with equalities. I get to get involved in lots of events. We have a women's group that we've created called Boston and West Midlands. I've also get involved in the book club, which helps me learn more about our political history, which is absolutely fantastic. We have movie nights. There's so much more than just your workplace you can get involved in. So anyone that wants to get more involved in their union, whether it's GMB or other unions, get involved, find out what else we're doing, because it's not just the workplace that we get involved in. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello. I'm Dave Warwick. I work for the GMB union at the moment, and I've been a member of the union since I started work, first day when I was 15. And I remember my grandma telling me about where she used to live when she was a child in Leicester, where there was one down houses with one toilet for every 12 houses. And that was obviously before the war, and it was before we changed this society. The unions and the labour movement did that, and I want to be part of the movement that defends the changes that we achieved after the Second World War. The National Health Service, decent housing for our kids, decent education, and decent social decent social care for our elderly and vulnerable citizens.
Stuart?
I'm Stuart. I'm, like Dave, an employee of GMB. I've been involved with the trade union movement for about 20 years. The reason I joined was because at the time my employer was treating a group of workers with absolute contempt. They were just railroading our conditions and tearing up our contracts. I joined GMB specifically because I saw a group of workers that were willing to stand up, stand next to each other and actually fight for what they believed in. And I joined GMB because there was an organisation that supported them behind it. We started that fight then, and we've won. And for the 20 years I've been doing it, we've actually been winning consistently. We're achieving positive change and making a real difference. And it wouldn't happen if we weren't doing that. Like your colleague said at the back there, if we leave this to the government, if we leave this to employers, then we're sunk. The only reason we get what we get is because we fight for it.
Hi, I'm Kim Rice. I'm also
GMB organiser. Been a GMB member for 39 years. I'm fiercely proud of what we've achieved in this country in terms of you know, what people have actually died for, so that we enjoy the terms and conditions that we enjoy. And I firmly believe that if we don't fight for it now, then our children, our grandchildren will have to start from scratch. They say ignorance is bliss, and you're absolutely right, it is, for those who seek to control and manipulate us and do us out of our rights. And that's what we've got to fight against. There are more of us than there are of them, and we need to start taking back some responsibility and control over our lives. As an officer, what I enjoy most is working alongside people like yourselves, people who are also like-minded, and what I want to do is actually get more and more of us, because it's only really by growing us in number and actually then starting to vocalise what we want, what we need, are we going to actually achieve it and actually maintain the standards that we've got, and we've already seen some of those being chipped away.
Sam? Hi. I started with the Potters Union, CATU. Several years on, we shrunk and shrunk as the government started doing things to our companies, which stunk them all. We joined the GMB union in April last year. It was the best thing we ever did. We got a larger voice, we've got more people like-minded with us. So going forward, we've got a better voice and a stronger union, and hopefully it'll keep on growing that way.
Hi, I'm Aki. I'm a GMB full-time officer. The reason why I joined the union is for personal reason, really. What I would say is that my background, unlike many of you, before coming to the UK, I was in Ivory Coast. I was a child labor. So, and I'm coming from a country where you do not have right at all, where we have trade union and human rights defender who try to protect our right, but they're being kicked down all the time. So when I came to this country, I realized that being a member of the union, not only you can protect your right at work, but you can also, with the tool you have, improve the life of people. It's really important. I heard many of my colleagues really who I work, especially one colleague, for example, who lost his father while he was at work. He asked his manager if he can get time off to go back to his country to assist the family, and the manager said, I'm sorry, you have to give me 24 hours notice. So when you see things like this, I think it's really important to have the union work, really. And I have a problem with one particular person, who is David Cameron, because he's been depriving people from the basic human right. We are not fighting for our colleague to become millionaire. We are just fighting for them to get the basic human right. It's simple as that. Now, if I have a message to send to Cameron, if you touch any of the trade union members, we come after you. It's simple as that.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak? You just raise your hands up and see if you do. Steph.
Hi, I'm Steph. As I said earlier, I'm the political officer. I've been a union member for 10 years, or just over. I became active in the union. Before I did this job, I was a secondary school teacher, so I worked with colleagues in the school and seeing the issues they face in their workplace, and that really got me actually actively involved in the union. But as political officer, I see every day how if we're going to make a change, it's fantastic if we make it on a local level, but it's only really going to be sustainable. It's only going to really happen if it happens on a national political level. So all the things you see around the room here, so like unions gave us the weekend, they gave us the minimum wage, you know, we could stand all day and list the things that the unions and the labour movement did. It didn't just happen, it happened because people organised, and it's only going to happen again, as many colleagues have said, is if we fight this government and we elect a Labour government. Thanks.
One last chance then, if you want to speak, just raise your hand so I can see you. Just
Well, I've got to join in with my fellow colleagues and all the reps in here as well. I know quite a few of you in here. Hello, you're right. I became a GMB member about 15 years ago, and I joined because I was in the care sector.
and we were all being bullied, we were all working extremely long hours. You know what it's like, all you guys at the front, you're working 12-hour, 14-hour shifts, no breaks, it's exhausting. You're up for allegations, you're up for abuse from people, and that's just your colleagues, never mind the residents that you're looking after occasionally. So I joined because of that. I then became the GMB representative, same time as my colleague over here, Hazel. Loved the training. It gave me a lot of confidence to actually be a voice for my colleagues and my friends in other sectors as well. So it is good, and it gives you the confidence to fight management, and it gives you the tools to fight your management as well. If you don't know what you're talking about, it's difficult to argue. If you've got that knowledge behind you, you can go back to your management with that knowledge, because 9 times out of 10, they don't. So that's why I joined, and that's why I love
it. Anyone else?
You.
What do you love your union? Okay. I just, first of all, before I tell my story, it's not as interesting as all of your stories. I am really privileged to have been able to hear all of your stories, honestly. I mean, you know, I know that Rachel said she was moved and she was in the stores. It is really moving to watch you all, to say what your union did for you. But actually, your union is you. You know, without you, this union would not exist. And I think that's the wonderful thing about a trade union, isn't it? It's not about sort of, you know, Amanda that works at Region or Joe Morgan who's the Regional Secretary. It's about ordinary people working day in, day out in these workplaces that know what their terms and conditions are, know what their issues are, and want to help others and improve things for others. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. And, you know, I'm really privileged, and thank you for sharing all of your stories. I didn't come from the same background as you did. I wasn't a rep. What happened to me is I worked at a lot of different workplaces that actually, you know, were not organised, didn't have a trade union, so never had that opportunity. But I came to work for a trade union. I drifted around in different jobs, like waitressing. I'd done some admin jobs. I'd worked at petrol stations, and I never really knew what I wanted to do in life, if I'm honest. And I drifted into a job with a union, and they took me on board. They educated me, developed me. And, you know, I'm in the position that I'm in now as a senior manager, but the most thing that they gave me was the gift to be able to help others and to nurture others. And, you know, it's really nice to look around the room and see, like, so many of the reps that I've worked with over the years. So, you know, it's about developing people as well. It's not just about improving your workplaces, but it's being able to give you perhaps opportunities that you wouldn't have had. I mean, I left school without any qualifications. You know, there was never any kind of you know, ambition that I would have a career or anything like that. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And when I worked for a union, I felt like I'd come home. So, and I feel like that everybody that I meet is part of a bigger family, and I think that's what trade unions are all about. So, thank you so much for that. And also, just to mention some of the officers' stories as well, because it shows that, you know, everybody can be developed and everybody is capable of being able to, you know, give something back. So, you know, never lose hope there, and always, you know, get more involved. If it's not in your workplace, come along to some of the events that Rebecca mentioned that we do through the equalities or through the women's group that Pauline mentioned. You know, we have a lot of fun. We're a big family, but we're also, you know, working towards the bigger picture. So thank you very much for today. I think we're going to call it to an end now with regards to the meeting. We're going to bring in the food, you know, mingle around and get to know each other. It's really great that we've got a couple of sectors together here, and we'll all settle down at 1:45, ready to watch Francis. Okay, thank you. Get the group in.